I think most people can agree with me when I say that GTA 5 and generally most games from the Grand Theft Auto franchise have a really weak and unsatisfying gunplay to them. And I think most of you can also agree that other games that were also made by Rockstar, such as Red Dead Redemption 2 and Max Payne 3, have a much better gunplay that feels realistic, which makes them much more enjoyable in that certain aspect. But why is that the case? There's a multitude of factors that come into play, and we'll talk about all of them, hoping that things change for the better in GTA 6. Of course, some of the mechanics have already been confirmed by the September 22 leaks, while others are still a mystery. Let's get into it. One of the main factors that makes GTA 5's gunplay feel underwhelming is due to the guns not having any weight to them. The recoil for most guns is basically non-existent, which makes for a really arcadey feel when shooting them. It's honestly like pointing a laser. The impact your shots have is also quite poor, as NPCs fall flat to the ground from a simple pistol shot, compared to RDR2, where different guns will have vastly different impacts on your enemies. And that is due to the improved ragdoll physics, but also gore elements that are obviously missing from GTA 5. Something else that's missing from GTA 5 is being able to disarm your enemies in combat by simply shooting their hand, which wasn't the revolutionary thing that RDR2 brought either. You were able to disarm NPCs back in 2008's GTA 4, which is even more confusing. If the prior game in the series was able to do it, and very naturally looking too, why go to the lengths of removing that feature entirely in your follow-up game? However, there is something that I'm glad was confirmed by the leaks for GTA 6, and that is a limited weapon inventory. In all other entries in the Grand Theft Auto series, you were only able to carry one gun of every type, so only one pistol, one shotgun, one submachine gun, one type of throwable, so either grenades, remote grenades, stickies or molotovs, one sniper rifle, and only one heavy gun, with most people preferring to carry an RPG in their pants. Oh, and also one type of melee as well, which almost every 3D era GTA game had a wide range to choose from. However, GTA 5 decided to shoot that system in the face, pun intended, and let the players carry every single weapon and miscellaneous item you can buy or even find in the open world, which to a lot of people was a welcomed addition, but I might be one of the very few people that would rather have the games force us into one of every type at the very least, because it's much more enjoyable that way, and not necessarily because it's flat out unrealistic. Because pulling out an RPG from your underpants in the earlier games wasn't all that realistic either. Leaked footage from 2022 does confirm that the weapon and inventory system has been massively overhauled, seemingly borrowing a lot of mechanics from RDR2, where you could only carry 2 sidearms and 2 other big guns on your back, along with other various things like knives, throwables, a lasso, lanterns, and so on. While every other gun you collect in the game is automatically put in your horse's saddle. And the same thing can be replicated in GTA 6 with the protagonist's personal vehicle, something we first saw in GTA 5. The trunk of their cars can serve as a storage unit for not just guns, but other valuables and equipment items we can collect in the game. A considerable amount of people were upset to find out that GTA 6 will feature a limited weapon inventory similar to Red Dead, saying how it will for sure ruin the game and would slow down the game's pace in general. And while it may be true that being unable to switch between 7 different guns, depending on the problem you're dealing with at the moment, can definitely cause the pacing to slow down a tad bit. But I don't necessarily believe that's a bad thing. Sure, I love pulling out a minigun and going on a random rampage just as much as everyone else. I grew up with this franchise, and causing long and thrilling shootouts won't exactly feel the same. But I also remember how fascinated I was when I first played RDR2 and felt the huge difference in gunplay and having to adapt to the new playstyle, where I had to choose my loadout before a shootout. And if you still hate the idea of a limited weapon wheel, just boot up Red Dead and tell me if random shootouts in the streets of Saint Denis or any other town feels unsatisfying. You might realize that they feel even better than in any GTA game thus far. And having that limit of what you can carry can finally give pistols and other smaller guns in the game a reason to be used during shootouts. Because when was the last time you unironically used a pistol in any GTA game? Unless you're at the very beginning, or the game forces you into using them either by emptying out your loadout or some other method, you're almost likely going to stick to the big 3: assault rifles, snipers, and heavy guns like RPGs and miniguns, with the occasional use of SMGs during a drive-by. I always like the idea of using pistols in GTA games, but they honestly feel useless when you can just use the alternative of a much bigger weapon that can put out a lot more damage. And if you think about it, when was the last time someone attacked you with a pistol or another sidearm in GTA Online, for example? Well, disregarding the Oppressor Mark II for a moment, you're probably being attacked by someone carrying a heavy gun, or perhaps one of those futuristic laser guns that is exclusive to the online mode anyway. Crouching and even proning were also thankfully confirmed instead of having the weird stealth mechanic that didn't even make sense in GTA 5, with this weird hunched back position that the protagonist would do. And finally, the gear and equipment section of your inventory is also returning and will even feature never before seen tools in the game, like lockpicks and slim jims to break into cars, possibly even requiring us to do a minigame, just like it was in GTA Chinatown Wars, which I found to be really satisfying. Backpacks to extend our storage capacity, as well as food and painkillers to recover your health faster during combat. It's important to know that flashbangs and smoke grenades will also seemingly be introduced in this game, and I'm really curious to see how they might impact the gameplay in general, but also PvP in the online mode. Now, let me also mention a few aspects that I would personally love to see in GTA 6 that weren't confirmed by the leaks or any official info from Rockstar themselves. Number 1, and probably the coolest feature to have, is bringing back kill cams from RDR2 with the option to turn them on and off whenever you want, as they slow down the gameplay a fair bit, and can potentially get annoying for some, so having the ability to choose whether you want those 6 shots or not would be a really welcomed addition in my opinion. Something else that I love to see is wear and tear on your guns, and actually having to keep them clean and properly functional. I don't think they should go as far as making them randomly jam and stop working on you if you ignore this mechanic, as I think that's a bit too far-fetched and definitely not something I'd love. But making the stats for the gun ever so slightly worse if the gun is in a poor condition, similar to how it is in Red Dead Redemption 2, would raise the immersion level substantially. Different types of ammo could also make an appearance, with the ability to even craft them ourselves, or at the very least be able to purchase it from ammunition with an obvious increase in price. And while we're at it, since this is partially related to the topic of this video, hunting could and should play a minor role in this game, since the animal variety and density seems to be on the same level with RDR2. I'm not saying Jason needs to skin rabbits to make a living, but at least give a reason to visit the Everglades other than to admire the beautiful scenery. But let's not get too carried away. I did yap a lot about Red Dead, and while I love the game a lot, it does have its issues similar to other titles from Rockstar. Since we saw Lucia and Jason rob a convenience store while wearing masks, it's safe to assume that the whole robbery system will look a lot like it was in Red Dead. But I'm hoping they can fix a lot of the problems we faced in the game, such as never being able to quietly rob a store without getting wanted, which was very frustrating for a lot of people, including myself. Why bother robbing a store to make money if you're then gonna face the whole might of Valentine's Shirt's office and would end up with a bounty, which would then need to be paid off? Before concluding everything, let me also briefly talk about the hand-to-hand combat from both GTA 5 and RDR2. Probably zero people can confidently say that GTA 5's hand-to-hand combat is any good. Not only do most NPCs die right on the spot from a simple punch, or even bumping into them sometimes, but for some reason the protagonist can teleport their fist into the nearest NPC, which is another downgrade from GTA 4's famous and very beloved hand combat, which even went on to feature an entire cage fight minigame in the Ballad of Gay Tony DLC, which was also really fun to play. Thankfully, Red Dead featured a realistic and satisfying hand combat, and if Rockstar were to simply copy and paste it into GTA 6, with a few small adjustments obviously, I wouldn't complain whatsoever. But who knows, there's always a bit of room for improvement, so we'll have to see upon release. I think GTA 5 can simply improve its gunplay and hand-to-hand combat by borrowing and re-implementing a lot of features from prior games. And I think it's really important for the gunplay as well as the driving, which we might discuss in another video, to be enjoyable and feel rewarding, and perhaps involve more skill to master certain mechanics. If things are gonna be similar like how they were in the past, we might be quote-unquote stuck with the next GTA for about 7 to 10 years. So it's important for the core mechanics to be on point and make replaying the story several times, as well as taking part in the online element for years on end, an experience that is pleasant for most players. If I've said this once, I've said it 1,000 times by now, and I will keep yapping about it. Rockstar Games is a master at creating open worlds filled to the brim with details that other companies would never think of implementing, and their stories, while perhaps not all of them are great, the ones that are, have left gamers in awe, and the lore presented in these games is still talked about even years upon years after release. I'm confident that GTA 6 can and will have the greatest combat system and gunplay we've seen in the franchise. But I hope you understand that this video isn't meant to just slander on GTA 5 and put Red Dead Redemption 2 in a spotlight. I think both games have their ups and downs, and the perfect balance between the two of them would probably make GTA 6 the greatest game we've seen in basically forever. But what do you think? How would you change the gunplay and hand-to-hand combat of GTA 5 or maybe even Red Dead Redemption 2 to make it better? Or do you believe that it's fine just the way it is currently? Let me know in the comment section down below. And while you're there, also leave a like. And of course, consider subscribing if you want to see more. Thank you so much for watching.